Hello, welcome back to Sheila's Take. And today I have a special guest. I want you to meet Michael T. Brown. He's a man driven by purpose and passion. He's dedicated to empowering individuals, families, businesses, and communities for over 20 years. As the principal of Brown's Leadership Consulting, he provides counseling support to individuals and families, as well as consulting services to organizations and businesses. With a diverse background, Michael has also served as a national trainer for the Y Tribe program, specializing in resilience, education, and student achievement. In addition to all of those, he has partnered with the DC Office of the Attorney General as a trainer for their Violence Interrupter program since 2020. Michael's commitment to making a difference extends beyond his professional endeavors. He is also an accomplished author with two books under his belt, Born to Achieve and A Beautiful Challenge. In 2013, he hosted The Brown Bag with Michael T. Brown on Blog TV Radio, where he shed light on pressuring societal issues and interviewed influential community difference makers. Michael's unwavering belief in the power of education, inspiration, and mobilization fuels his efforts to empower others. So please welcome Michael T. Brown to Sheila's Take. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Sheila. I appreciate you inviting me. I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you for joining me.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us more about your counseling work and how you've been empowering individuals and communities for over 20 years?
Yes. Well, I've been a counselor for, as you mentioned, over 20 years. I started out working in the school system. I was a school counselor. I worked on all three levels.
Mm-hmm.
And then in about 2016, I decided to pursue my counselor's license in the community, which allows me to see individuals, couples, and families here regionally in the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. area, and also across the country through video conferencing. And I'm seeing some really good success. Sheila, I think a big part of it is to create a safe space for people, for them to be able to come in and tell their story. But ultimately, it's about getting to the root cause of problems and putting in place strategies that are going to help them overcome those challenges and really win on purpose. And I love it, and I'm passionate about it.
You're passionate about it. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. That's really good.
Yeah.
As the principal of Brown's Leadership Consulting, what types of consulting services and support do you provide to organizations and businesses?
Yeah, so a big part of what I like to do when working with businesses or organizations, deals with personal efficacy. I'm a firm believer that no organization, right, is going to reach their optimal ability until the individuals within that organization are healthy.
Wow, yeah.
Mentally, physically, so that way, productivity increases when we add value to people because, at the end of the day, organizations, right, are made up of people, and we have to invest in our people. And whether that's through trainings, right, we're teaching effective communication. Wellness is a big part of what I focus on, right?
Wow.
Our mental health being in place, because at the end of the day, profits financially is one thing, right? But the best way to get financial profits is when we're investing in people.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that we invest in people. So whether it's in the business setting or, community organizations, that's a big part of what I like to do, is to invest in people.
One of the things I've noticed or realized is that with companies do better when they're pouring back into their employees as opposed to companies who do not,
Right.
And that's very important. People want to feel wanted, or they want to feel like they value and what they bring to the table is important, and that helps, wellness definitely.
Yeah.
I'm a big supporter of wellness. So congrats on doing all of those things.
Thank you.
You mentioned being a national trainer for the Y Tribe program. Can you explain a little bit what that is and share some insights and how
Yeah.
how it contributes to student achievement?
Yeah, great question. I had the opportunity to travel the country a few years ago with the YTRI organization. And a big part of what YTRI does is help students answer that question, why try? Why continue to persevere with your education and to do well, behaviorally as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that program did is used a multi sensory approach to education. So they brought in the music, right, to help motivate
Wow.
and
Okay.
dealt with the social emotional part because so many teachers, right, and schools are trying to figure out how do we get and keep students motivated.
Yes.
Well, one way we do it is by teaching to their learning style,
Mm-hmm.
right? I remember when I would do the trainings, I would say, we got to upgrade some of our approach to dealing with youth. Because if we're using an 8-track mentality in a smartphone world, then we're going to outdate, right?
Right.
So a
Yeah.
big part of what we have to do is meet our youth where they are and speak, maybe not speak the same language they're speaking, because once we start speaking the same language they do, then it just instantly became uncool, right?
Right.
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 Because ultimately, it's not about speaking the exact same language of our youth, but it's having an understanding of how they learn and understanding their
Exactly.
environment. So when we do that, whether it's through music, whether it's through writing, whether it's through poetry or some type of creative outlet, right?
Mm-hmm.
When our youth understand that they belong in the school and that somebody notices them and that they have a go-to person in the school, then now they may feel more connected to the school
Yeah.
and grades can go up
Mm-hmm.
because they feel a sense of belonging, right? The negative behaviors can go down because they understand that it's relevant, that
Mm-hmm.
school is relevant to them. And
Yes.
the Y Try program, they're based out of Utah, and I encourage anybody who's
Really?
listening
Okay.
to look them up because they offer some really good tools to help motivate youth and help schools and young people thrive.
They're in Utah.
Yes, they're they're
Okay.
they're headquartered out of Utah. Yep.
And how did you connect it? Now how did now that's where you're located.
Yeah.
How did that come together?
Good. You're asking some good questions. So I was in the school system at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the founder, his name is Christian Moore, is a good friend and colleague. He was doing a training here in the
Mm-hmm.
area I was in, and we connected. And I really liked what they were doing. And over time, I started to build with them, and I came on board and
Okay.
yeah, partnered from there. So he came to one of our symposiums, one of our workshops there, and we connected there.
You connected. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I used the program. That's part of what intrigued me with it because
Right.
as a school counselor, it gave me more tools to work
Mm-hmm.
with youth versus just doing, talk, verbal with them.
Right.
There was visual dynamics that helped them
Mhm.
understand certain principles. So I connected by using it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Great.
Yeah.
Um, since 2020, you have partnered with the DC Office of the Attorney General as a trainer for their Violence Interrupter program. I'm going to ask you the same question, explain exactly what that is
Yeah.
and how it aims to make a difference in addressing violence in the community.
Yeah. So, the violence interrupter program is built off of the premise that those in the community have to save itself.
Wow.
Right? That the
Wow.
cavalry's
Okay.
not coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
People oftentimes who are the victim of violence,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those who grow up in difficult environments realize just that we got to save ourselves. So
Yeah.
part of what the
Yeah.
program does is train people from the community to interrupt violence within the
Mm-hmm.
community. We offer training and support to help them understand some of the warning signs because interestingly enough, Sheila, a lot of the violence that's perpetrated in certain areas is done by, I'm not gonna say a few folks, but usually folks who have a track record. You can be targeted.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
know some of the numbers when you crunch the numbers, right? It's not that everybody's running around crazy. You maybe got a few that we can
Okay.
highlight.
Right. Right.
Some of the bad actors, right? And So we got to partner, we got to mentor, we got to encourage, but ultimately we got to provide resources, right, to our communities to help
To help.
help stem the violence. So we help
Right.
train individuals to deal with some of the uh, perpetrators of violence within the community. We identify who they are and start building with them through trusted relationships and with resources, through education, through mobilization. So my role is to come in and support those who work with those. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You got a busy you're doing a lot there. You got a lot going on,
Yeah.
It's
Now this has been over. This is not all in one day. So like, we're talking about 20
I hope
years here.
not.
So yeah,
20 years.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. In
yeah.
that particular opportunity, my brother,
Mhm.
who's also a counselor, that was kind of spearheaded by him. So I kind of came under his umbrella there and just helped support some of what his business does. So yeah,
Okay.
yep,
Okay. Now, you have authored not one but two books, right? Born to Achieve and A Beautiful Challenge. What inspired you to write these books and what messages do they convey?
yeah. So Born to Achieve, in many ways, was the love letter to our youth.
Mm-hmm.
Having been a school counselor, for at that time, maybe over a decade, I just noticed in so many interactions with young people, what would be some principles that I could pull together in a book that I could hand this to a young person and say, here's some things to think about. I can help you. So in there, we talk about, the importance of leadership, being academically sound, and finding your purpose and your passion. As a school counselor, I would ask people, and I still ask people to this day, what career would you choose if money were not an issue? Right? If you just loved it, what would you wake up and do? Let's say
Wow.
money was okay. You were good in the financial
Mm-hmm.
department. What would you do based upon your skill set and your interests? So we talk about that in the book, right? Finding what you love and your purpose. And let me just pause right there, Sheila, and just commend you for creating this platform.
Oh,
Because
thank
this is
you.
an example, right, of somebody saying, hey, look, what's Sheila's take on it? Sheila's got something to contribute, right?
That's
And
right.
whenever we put ourselves out there
Yeah.
to say, let me use what I have, let me use whatever platform I have, good
Mm-hmm.
things start to happen. And I
Right.
believe
Right.
that principle that ties in with the book, with the young
Mm-hmm.
people, right, is find your purpose, find your passion.
Right.
And then
Right.
when you do that, that's going to make room for you. Your gifts, right? Scripture
Yes.
teaches that it's going to make room for us. And so that's Born to Achieve. A Beautiful Challenge deals with how do we maintain healthy relationships, whether personal or professional. And I believe that, healthy relationships are not inherited. They're worked for, they're
They
fought
are.
for.
I
Yeah.
agree with that. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes. It's funny. I was on an Instagram live today and we were talking about relationships. And I had shared one of the things that I've been married 23 years. And it takes work. And that's not it's not just marriage, it's friendships,
That's right.
it's friendships. It takes a lot to meet people and cultivate that type of friendship and continue to stay friends. And I've noticed as I've gotten older, my circle of friends have gotten smaller, and it's really difficult sometimes to keep healthy relationships, and
Right.
so it's very difficult. I agree with that, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
But it's good work, and
Yes.
and a lot of it can be taught,
Yes.
right? So we need to talk about, and right, a big part of it has to deal with how we communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And there's principles that can be taught to help us navigate these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about that some in the book, right? What are the communication skills? One of it is, I messages, telling how we feel versus just pointing out the finger of blame to someone else, right? Reflective listening, proving that we heard the other person by
Mm-hmm.
reflecting back what we hear them say, right? And then asking for what we want, an assertive request where we ask for what we need. So a lot of these things can be taught. I took a communications class in college, but to be honest with you, it was more about, how to give speeches and that sort of thing and how to deal
Mm-hmm.
with media. So I don't know that it's talked about enough. that
Wow.
we're not taught these things a lot of times. How do
Right.
we communicate more effectively? So in the book, I give some principles that I think can help us navigate these relationships. But you used the key word, or the word that I take from what you said, and that is that we need to be intentional,
Mm-hmm.
right? That any good relationship takes intentional action,
Mm. Yeah.
and we got to invest in it. And somebody may who's listening today may need to hear that. Maybe there's somebody you hadn't talked to in a while, or a
Right.
family member or a friend, and maybe you said, you know what, I'm doing me and you're doing them. When you come to find out, maybe it's okay to call them and just check in.
And just check in and say,
Yeah,
hey, well,
yeah,
how's it going? What's
yeah,
going on?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Um, Hosting the Brown Bag with Michael T. Brown on Blog TV sounds really intriguing. Um, could you share with me some memorable interviews or discussions from that show that shed light on important issues, societal issues?
Sheila, you got me going back into you're working my resume here. This is good.
Look, dude, I got to
I
do
love
more
it.
research,
I
right?
like this. This is
Come
good. You did your homework. This is
on.
good. This is good. So you see you can see some of how my mind works and how I think is, uh, the Blog Talk Radio was another labor of love. I wanted to expand my voice,
Mm-hmm.
and I connected with a really good brother here who it was his radio show, and I pitched it to him. We talked about some of the ideas and some of the people, some of the topics that we face in society that I felt like needed to be addressed, and I wanted to lend my voice to it. So over about a course of a year, I would just bring interesting people on and just talk about their story and their journey,
Mm-hmm.
because I
Yeah.
believe when we sit and talk to people about their story and their journey, we can gain nuggets of wisdom and inspiration. So, yeah, it's still out there. People can go on the Blog Talk Radio and search my name there. And a lot of the interviews I did, it's
Mm-hmm.
still out there. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did listen to it. I just want to let you know I did. Like I
You
said,
do your homework, Sheila. I am very impressed. You are not
and
playing with this
I'm
this this
not
webcast.
playing,
You in
right?
this? I like it.
It's clear that your mission is to empower others and communities through education, inspiration, and mobilization. Can you share some examples of how you achieve this and the impact you have seen?
Yeah, so through education, right?
Hmm.
At the end of the day, it's hard to run with a blueprint that has not been taught.
Yeah.
So a big part of what I do in counseling, what I've done in education, is to provide tools and
Hmm.
techniques and strategies. Because usually by the time, particular in therapy, somebody gets to me, a lot of times they're ready to learn
Yeah.
and they're ready to share their story,
Hmm.
right? Because they reached out for counseling.
Right.
And I hope, and I want to encourage somebody with that today. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not have all the answers. And that's where mobilization and inspiration comes in, because
Hmm.
when we come together and realize that in the village there's enough answers, right? The African proverb, right? It takes a village to raise a child.
That's right.
And that village, we can learn and grow from one another. And I try to do that, right, in the school system, in my personal life, and also through the counseling platform. They're connected. When people come together with good intentions and
Hmm.
goodwill, good things happen.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely. I'm gonna say you're doing a excellent job, and I commend you for that.
Thank you.
We need more people like you out there investing in our communities, investing in our children, in our because they are our future. People don't realize that, but the children are our future, and we need to pour into them. We need to pour into our communities because we learn through our communities. I know growing up as a child, I come from Brooklyn, New York, actually, and we had a really strong community during the time when I was growing up. And I noticed as years went on, it's kind of changed,
Yeah.
and We really need to get back to that and remind people that it does. It takes a village
That's right.
to raise a child, children, and we all we can't turn a blind eye to what's going on.
That's right.
That's very
Yeah,
important.
I heard this quote. I really like it. It says, people go where they've been welcomed, but
Hmm.
they stay where they've been valued.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that community sense of, and I'm a recipient of that. So it only makes sense to pay it forward as imperfectly as we're going to
Mhm.
do, right? Because at the end of the day, we all are works in progress, and there's personal growth. Personal growth, I believe, has no finish line. Every day is an opportunity to learn more about ourselves and others. And again, platforms like this help get the word out and help reach an audience. So I commend you for the work you're doing as well,
Thank
and
you.
keep
Thank
up the good
you.
work. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, besides your professional endeavors, you mentioned enjoying spending time with family and friends. So, how do you find a balance between your personal and professional life? And how does your professional life influence your work in empowering others? Now, that's a good
Yes.
question, right?
That is. You got me on the counseling couch right now. I'm on that. Right. Some therapy for me. This is good because it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's a beautiful challenge
Hmm.
to, well, one thing I would say is helpful is to prioritize,
Yeah.
right? And to try not to take on too much and also allow time for home to be good,
Yeah.
right? So I got to pour the same, I need to make sure I got energy in the tank, right? To pour into family and friends the same way I'll pour into clients and with others. And because it's hard to serve from an empty well. So a big part for me is to make sure that I really try to practice what I preach, to invest in my own mental health,
Hmm.
my own physical, emotional, and spiritual health. So one thing that helps me is I'm a big proponent of how we start a day matters. So if
Yeah.
I'm encouraging others to journal or gratitude or to get into the word, right? I need to practice it.
Yes.
So to having my own daily disciplines, my own routines, things that help me stay grounded, but sometimes it's not so balanced. Sometimes there's sacrifices that need to be made. Uh, and sometimes when it is imbalanced, I need to get it back right. And,
Right.
and that's something I'm still learning. But if I keep at it, right, I can get better at it.
That's we're learning every day.
That's it.
Learning every day. No matter how old you get, you can always learn something new, right? We're
Amen.
always learning.
Yeah.
One more question. What are you grateful for?
Oh, so much. Uh, God,
Hmm.
life, family, friends, and purpose.
Amen.
When every time you get the opportunity to start a new day excited about what you do, you know, I'm a firm believer, Sheila, that one of the greatest antidotes to fear, anxiety, depression, mood disorders is purpose.
Mm, yeah.
Therapy is great.
Hmm.
All medicine can be helpful. Tools and strategies, all that's great. But I think what holds it all together is when an individual realizes that we're created for a purpose,
Your purpose.
on purpose.
That's right.
So when we know, so that I'm grateful for, that God would choose me to have some work to do that can help others. That never gets old. Seeing people win and move from one place to the next.
Wow.
Not because I'm doing so much, but because of the platform that he creates and what he wants to do in the
Mhm.
platform.
Right.
That I'm truly grateful for.
Well, you are doing some great things. And again, I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're doing amazing work. And to my listeners out there, please, if you have not read them, please go back, get these two books, Born to Achieve and A Beautiful Challenge. Can we get them on your website? Can you tell people
Yes,
your
they can
website?
go to my website, brownsleadership.com, and Yeah, go there to the homepage and we can get it out to you. Look forward to connecting with anybody who's out there. And yeah, again, thank you for this opportunity and keep up.
Thank you for being a guest today, and I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Keep up the good work, Sheila.
Thank you.